Hey everybody, Josh Sigurdson, World Alternative Media here, and of course we're joined by author and economic analyst here at WAM, John Sneisen. And just last week we were reporting on Deutsche Bank, not even a week ago, John, and it's insane what has happened since. We've seen almost a 30% decrease in share prices. It was 13 something euros, and now it's down to about 941 euros. And that's an insane decrease in the last week. And at the time we talked about how they had just laid off about 10,000 employees. That's about 1 in 10 employees at Deutsche Bank. And now the S&P downgraded Deutsche Bank's credit rating to BBB plus from A minus, saying the bank's wide-ranging restructuring faces execution risks and will take time to return the bank to steady profitability. And of course, their CEO, I feel like Deutsche Bank is getting a CEO every month now, but their CEO is saying, oh, don't worry, we will be on our way up soon. Don't worry about any more downgrades. Dude, you just laid off 1 in 10 employees. Good luck boosting morale there at the office. But looking at the Zero Hedge article, it says, as its stock crashes to all-time low, a shocked Deutsche Bank issues a statement. And as the article says, back in September 2016, when its stock was imploding over capitalization and solvency concerns, the market was transfixed with the daily drop in Deutsche Bank's stock price, which tumbled, eventually sliding below 10 euros, and only implicit promises that Germany would bail it out prompted a slow, if painful, reversal. And yet, at no point in that period did the stock close at a level below where it closed today. A new all-time low, crashing 7.2% to 9.16%, following reports that the bank was on the Fed's secret probation list. And as we just mentioned at the beginning of the video, at this moment when we're doing this video, it's 9:41. When I did the video, when I edited it last time, we had said at the time of the video that it was 13 something, and by the time I was editing it, it was 12 something. It's kind of like Bitcoin, it's all over the place. So I say something now and like 5 hours from now it's something totally different. But the point is, and you could bet that a lot of them are getting really excited because it's up slightly from what, 916 to 941. Wow, big difference. John, what do you think about this insanity?
Well, I think the new, the bankers likes to talk about cryptocurrencies is having volatility. I think the next volatility stock to come out, and it's happening right now with Deutsche Bank and many other banks, I think it's the bank stocks that are highly volatile right now.
Well, the centralized bubble is popping. So, everyone's worried about cryptocurrencies, which actually have a fundamental use in the future and barely have been introduced to the public. There has been no widespread adoption yet. People are worried about that, but they're not worried about this worn out, dead idea of these massive insolvent banks someday doing better. I mean, we've seen it propped up so long that it has to come down, and the longer it's put off, even harder. And when we first reported on Deutsche Bank in 2016, at the beginning of 2016, we were talking about how at that time they had a $75 trillion derivatives exposure, which is the entire GDP of the planet. I think Germany's at the time, their GDP was somewhere around, what was it, 3 point something trillion dollars. It's just insane. What do you think, John?
Well, I think what's happening is the banks are really starting to see the next, cycle of this 2008 bailout. They were bankrupt back then. Now they're, I don't know. There's so many people that are saying that how can the central banks fix this? I don't know. And it's I think what we might see. Well, who knows? They might just print more money and just recycle their quantitative easing theories and try to just double down basically on their policies, because I don't think they have any exit strategy. And we said this so many times, Josh. I'm just trying to remember when we first, reported, I think it was 2 years or something ago, when we reported on Deutsche Bank the first time. I don't know how many videos we've done on Deutsche Bank. It's just ridiculous.
I feel like about 50 at this point. And, it's weird because we're looking at what's happening with Deutsche Bank. And, John, you went into the cash to deposit ratio at so many different banks. The banks have never recovered since 2008. They're mostly all insolvent. Some of them cover as little as 0.15% of deposits with cash. Deutsche Bank is actually doing better than a lot of those when it comes to actual cash to deposit ratio. So that should be a big red flag for everyone else.
But from a banker banker that attacked me because of I was talking about the cash to deposit ratios. He said that if a bank has cash, that means that it's very poorly managed. So I guess Deutsche Bank is very poorly managed according to the banker rules, because it does have too much cash, at hand.
They have like what, 25% or something like that?
Yeah, it's not betting a whole bunch of their people's money on everywhere, on the stock exchanges and on derivatives and so on. You got to remember that the downgrade from A- to BBB plus means that it's a huge downgrade, because as soon as anybody gets downgraded from any A to B, that means that you're down a level in investment grade, and you can't pension funds can't buy you anymore because you're not up there, and a lot of other industries does not consider you a good investment anymore. So that should also tell a lot of people that there's a huge problem here. And I think the thing, like Deutsche Bank's, if Deutsche Bank CEO was German, he would say Scheiße right now. That you'd have to bleep that out, because maybe we get censored in even in German. So
yeah, well, I mean, I have to ask John, how have they not crashed thus far? I know there's a vast amount of centralization, but how? I mean, we've been talking about this for so long. There's no reason that it should still be standing on two legs.
Well, the reason that it's actually standing, Josh, is because it's the major bank in Germany. It's not like a tiny little bank that could get bailed in or bailed out and nobody really cares about it. This is one of the biggest banks. I think it's the biggest banks, actually, biggest bank in Germany, and if it were to get taken over by another bank, it's way too big to do that. Like Commerzbank is also in kind of trouble. We looked at their share price at one point as well, and their stock price going down. So both of the banks are in major trouble, the major banks in Germany. And of course, Germany is who runs the European Union mostly, together with France, maybe, and a little bit the UK to fund all this, like the banks. So what we're seeing is just a huge calamity there. And of course, you can think about all the bad debt that they have on their books. It comes from all of Southern Europe that have basically gone bankrupt, and it's just a constant shuffling out of money and trying to help themselves up. But the problem is you can't fix an insolvent corporation, and you can't fix an insolvent government's country.
Yeah, and someone should probably tell Donald Trump, whose money is in Deutsche Bank, that this is happening. It's funny because you mentioned, I made a comment in a recent video, John, about how what we see with Lehman Brothers back in 2008, how that was small in scale in comparison. And then you compare it to all these big banks that are seeing massive problems, including Wells Fargo as well. I think we just reported a few days ago, all big banks are now in the red now that JP Morgan, year to date, that is in the red year to date. And that's a huge problem. So that's going to be coming down. And that's why it comes down to what we talk about so much, is if your money's in the bank, it's not yours, it's the bank's. So it comes down to you as an individual saving for yourself, being financially responsible. With education, you must do your own due diligence and understand these issues, because if you don't understand money, money controls you. If you understand money, you control your money, and that is so important. You need to save. You need to look at different ways to save outside of these Ponzi plans we call pension schemes that are going to, they're talking about a $400 trillion shortfall by the year 2050. I don't think it'll last that long. It'll come down to you looking towards food, water, shelter, self-defense. You're not gathering things for the toughest guy on the block. Of course, gold, silver, cryptocurrency. This is our opinion, not an investment advice, but all the same. I mean, folks, just look into it, do your own due diligence. Don't listen to us. Just vigilantly search for answers, because it's important, because you will be taken advantage of. You will become a debt slave, and that's where they really have you, because if they shove you down a bottomless pit of debt, you're forced to ask for a ladder up from the government and the banking system, which puts you into perfect servitude. Bottom line, John?
Well, bottom line is everybody's in a casino bankster gulag. And they, put their money into the bank thinking that they're going to win, get maybe some negative interest rates. So they have to pay them to have the money there. And it's just, that's what it's all ended up in. It's just a massive casino gulag, as I said, where everybody's going to lose money because the banksters are betting your money on high stakes risks. And they know that they're going to most likely not make money on it, but they will, because they get a little bit of fees. That's all they get from you. That's their business business structure. They print money out of thin air, borrow it to you, and then of course they take your money, steal it, and then gamble it on everything else. And then they eventually lose your money, but they made some money for themselves because they made money on those fees. And you got to remember, they print money out of thin air, all these banks, money out of thin air, and then borrow it to you. And then you put a little bit of money into your bank account, and now they just take that and gamble. They leverage it, of course.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, this is something that will affect a lot of people. These aren't your old-fashioned savings and loans banks anymore, folks. And for that reason, I mean, if they try to bail out Deutsche Bank, don't sit apathetic, stand up, scream, and ensure that your money isn't stolen and extorted to pump into this massive bank that has failed people because it's fraudulent. And on top of that, there's a good chance there could be a bail-in regime as well, which would mean that they would just steal depositors' money straight out of their bank account, and insurance on that is almost nothing. Mario Draghi at the ECB has been pushing to get rid of depositors' insurance, so that means like your little minor percentage that won't even exist anymore. Your money will be gone. So folks, stand up against this. Thanks for going into this with us, John, and until next time, this is Josh Sigurdson and John Sneisen signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth, be the change. Like what you see here, WAM? Don't forget to check the links below. GoFundMe, Patreon. We can't do it without you. Any donation is very much appreciated, especially as we are so overwhelmingly demonetized and censored by YouTube as the ADL comes in and flags all of our content as hate speech. Also, check our Bitcoin address in the description as well as on the screen for you to scan if you please. And also find us at steemit.com at Josh Sigurdson, the future of social media, where you get paid in the upvote of your post in Steem, the cryptocurrency. And also find us at the Red Pill Expo, which we have a reference link for below in the description and the comments as well. Hosted by G. Edward Griffin, amazing speakers coming out to speak this year. Don't miss it. It's in Spokane, Washington, June 21st to 23rd. We hope to see you there. But until next time, this is Josh Sigurdson signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth, be the change.